Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Week 14 edition of Man's Maker, the Emmy and Golden Globe nominated DFS show. I'm the host, the motherfucking Pete Manzanelli, and I am joined right now by a truly prestigious guest. This is a man who won the second annual Broathlons. This is a man you can find on the Action Networks, on the Three Donkeys, and of course on a very special show that I'm now a cast member of, the DFS Edge. This is a man who surely likes Matt Lacoste to bounce back this week. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program, CSURAM88.
Wow, that's the best introduction I've ever had, dude. And I mean, you should be replacing me. We recorded the Edge yesterday, and we needed you back. Like, the show's not the same without you.
You know, and this is the thing, I want to get clear. I don't want to replace anyone. You know, in the event of an absence, say a sickness, I'd happily fill in, but I'm thinking more of like a fourth cast member thing because I don't want to ruin the dynamic. I just want to come and add a little spice of Manz in there, you know?
I think the show would be a lot better with the Manz. That's all I'm saying.
That's right. That's right. Well, we have talked plenty about that audition on the interwebs. You guys had a great DFS Edge show that came out yesterday. And so you guys can check that out. If not, we got some fun in the chat. We got Harbs. He loves the jersey and the hats, dude. I had to rep my Broncos gear from my boy Pete. Pete, do you think people here don't know? We discovered this summer we have probably played basketball against each other in high school, huh?
That's true, dude. That was I didn't realize you grew up in my neck of the woods, dude. Green Mountain, right?
That's right, dude. That's right. And yeah, I'm sure we have tangoed on the court during some summer league basketball or what have you, and just did not realize it.
Yeah. And speaking of basketball, how did you let me win the Broathlon off the Achilles, dude? That was like your event. You were a huge favorite across the board.
I made some
football. That was your performance. You know, casting yourself for the DFS Edge, A+. Your performance in the Broathlon, F.
You know, it has been a tough road. I created this, seminal event, back-to-back years. I've been a heavy favorite. Back-to-back years, I've jumped out to a lead and then just let it slip through my hands. Some have said because of my own cockiness, that has led to my downfall. They might be true. That might be correct. But I think we're going to have to run it back this year. The third Broathlon, and Manz is finally going to get in the win column.
What sport is the Broathlon this year?
Well, we were talking this summer, right? We were thinking maybe a little baseball, dude. I was thinking like home run derby, a little pickle, maybe something like that.
I like it. I'm in. I love baseball.
Yeah, dude. That's the thing. I got to be careful because Levitan's with last year's Broathlon was so worried we were playing into your hands. I thought I had like the ace up my sleeve with the dunk contest, but Levitan's was kind of right. We were playing into your hands.
Dude, I can't jump. I mean, the dunk contest, you saw me. I got like 2 inches off the ground. How'd you let me win, dude?
Well, because someone tried to take off their shirt mid-dunk and then got really stubborn and continued to try to execute it instead of just moving on. That's what happened.
Yeah, when you have a six-pack like the Manz, I can see why you want to take off the shirt, kid.
That's right. That's right. That's the only ace.
You got the third place medal on today.
Oh yeah, dude. Let's not forget. You know who I wiped the floor in the gambling Olympics with? Pete Jennings, dude. What place did you finish in? Huh?
Not third, below third. So well deserved, kid.
That's right. That's right. All right. We got people in the chat. Everybody's ready to go. We want to talk Week 14 DFS right here. Pete, what is your bird's eye view of this slate? I mean, it seems like we got a million different directions we can go with all of the value at basically every position. How are you feeling about this?
I actually love this slate. I think there's a ton of value, and people get mad, in slates where it's like, oh, the lineup makes itself. And for me, in cash games, I still want to see people prove it. So I think there's a big edge when you have some obvious value plays, and when the fish make mistakes, it's great. From a tournament perspective, certainly an area I need to improve on, hoping to finally hit something big this year. I think there's a lot of great pivots. So I like this week a lot. I think from just looking at, I guess your opinion on some of these key value running backs is the real big decision. I mean, you have Samuels, who's going to be really heavily owned. You have Jeffrey Wilson, and then you have the San Diego running back situation. And I think a lot of people are going to jam in these cheap running backs, which leads to a roster construction of either paying up for a tight end and one stud receiver or two stud receivers. So we'll see a lot of lineups like that. And I think you can pivot and be contrarian by playing some of these mid-range running backs who are really great plays. And the same can be said for the mid-range wide receivers, which includes Amari Cooper.
Amari Cooper, that's right. That's right. He's looking like he's in a good spot this week. The Eagles secondary hasn't been much to write home about. I actually write letters to my mom about the Eagles defense each week, and there hasn't been much to write to her about. So yeah, how are you ranking these chalk punt running backs right now? Let's lump in the Jalen Samuels, Jeffrey Wilson Jr.'s. Do not call him Jeff Wilson, Roto World. You're not on that kind of first name basis with him. And of course, Justin Jackson. How are you ranking those three?
Well, in DraftKings, I think it's Samuels for sure, given the PPR upside. I don't think he's going to get like a full complement of like handoffs. I think he's probably in the range of 8-10 rushes. As an ex-tight end, he's really involved in the passing game, and I think given the Steelers are so pass-happy, that's going to fit perfectly with his game. And, you know, the one downside for him in terms of his upside with the passing game is that they should crush Oakland, and we could see a lot of Ridley in, like, the fourth quarter. But even in the beginning of the game, I think their plan should be a lot of, like, screen passes to Jalen Samuels. So I love his floor. Obviously, the Steelers are implied for a ton of points. They should crush the Raiders. So he's number one for me. Then it's Wilson. I think he's going to get a lot of opportunity. And again, he has nice involvement in the passing game. There's a little bit of a concern, you know, anytime Kyle Shanahan has like a chalk running back that he'll, you know, bring out Alfred Morris to bang it between the tackles, even though he hasn't been using him at all. So I guess there's a smidge of concern there. And then Jackson's nice. He would be third for me. I still am bullish on Eckler, but yeah, I'd expect that to be like a 50-50 split, maybe even 60-40 in favor of Jackson, just because they shouldn't be using Eckler between the tackles that much. We saw that wasn't effective. And the coach even came out and said, basically, we've used him a lot. He's been on special teams. Like, he's starting to wear down just a little bit. So I don't think they're going to give him a ton of opportunity, but that's probably that's probably the backfield that's most likely to be an even split. Curious your power rankings of those three guys.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely very interested on this Chargers situation because you mentioned that Anthony Lynn quote, which I think is changing the tides of public sentiment on there to where we could see more Jackson, even though, like you said, Eckler's still the better play on DraftKings. I mean, that quote by Anthony Lynn was the most condescending shit I've ever said. It was like he's tapping. He's like, he's a cute little guy that stands on the sidelines and eats cookies while the big boys play. And if he's going to drive all this ownership away, I mean, Eckler's salary kind of falls in that dead man zone at 6,200. The question is, right, can the Bengals keep this close to where Eckler's on the field in more passing down situations? That's my question.
Yeah, it's concerning. I mean, the Bengals are just a dumpster fire at this point. They've been awful against the run. They've given up just so many fantasy points and yards to running backs. And with Driscoll in there, I actually think he's a better quarterback than people realize, given his athleticism. But now A.J. Green's out. Really, the only guy you got to worry about stopping is Tyler Boyd. I will say there's one really good pivot there that I brought up on the edge. I think Giovanni Bernard, this game gets out of hand, could be an amazing tournament play. He's got that same price range as all the value running backs we just talked about, and he saw 8 targets last week. And if the game flow goes correctly and, you know, they're trailing most of the game and he's out there, I mean, this could be a spot where he gets 10 catches.
Pete, you don't know what you just did. You just made a small cohort of Mansmaker fans so incredibly happy. So I'll just give you a quick background. There are a few guys that are huge Gio Bernard truthers. Every week I do this show, they're in the chat. And Pete, I'm not kidding. Even when he wasn't playing, they were asking for Gio Bernard updates. So to hear you, Mr. CSU Rammies, tout Gio Bernard's unprompted. Trevor Marshalls is going nuts in the chat right now. So he thanks you on behalf of me and Trevor. Thank you for that Gio Bernard update.
Yeah, I think it's a good pivot. I didn't realize there was a Gio Bernard, truthers out there. I didn't realize there's a fan club, but hell yeah. I think he's a good pivot. I think there's a lot of interesting options like that this week. The mid-range, though, Eckler falls in there, and then someone I want your opinion on, Aaron Jones. To me, he seems like a smash, but I think Green Bay gets it done. Shout out to Sean Corner, who was on your Gambling Olympics winning team. Sean All right, well, no, he wasn't on your winning team. He was on Bales' team, sorry. But Sean had a good performance. Sean called it on the Tan Football podcast on Tuesdays, like that total's way too low. It's going to go up. And lo and behold, it's sitting at 50.5. The narrative for Aaron Rodgers and this Green Bay offense without McCarthy is very strong. So I think someone's going to have a really good game there. And I definitely think it could be Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I like that. I'm really going to be curious to see where his ownership falls. But if we get everyone jumping off the wagon after getting burned last week, I mean, it almost sets up even better than last week. I know the Cardinals are awful, but now you're at home against the Falcons. We have the coaching change. Maybe we're done with this Jamal Wilson or Williams split backfield bullshit. And they put up a big number. Seems like the same spot Aaron Jones was last week, and he was massively owned. So if you're getting him at half the ownership as last week, I love it.
Yeah, I think you'll get him even less than half just because of all the valued running backs, and people still want to play Christian McCaffrey. I think Kamara's in a great spot. What you vaping over there, kid?
Oh, dude, just a little vanilla, dude. Just a little morning vape sesh. You know, this is just how we do, bro.
No, it was 4:20 somewhere. You put that out there, London, right?
Yeah, dude. I mean, you wanted to do this 11:20 Eastern, but I got the subtext that was you wanted to do it. You know what they always say? It's 4:20 somewhere, right, bro?
That's right.
That's right. Let's before we move on, how about these high-end running backs? You mentioned a few of them. You know, all these guys are bell cow, Barkley, McCaffrey. You're getting great Zeke. Yeah, exactly. Do you have a preference on those, and maybe how do you think ownership's going to shake out on those?
I think McCaffrey's going to be heavily owned, and I do love McCaffrey. He's been obviously incredible majority of the season. One thing that I think helps him, Cam Newton really is struggling throwing the football. We saw him come out. Couldn't even attempt the Hail Mary. His shoulder's definitely bothering him, and that's going to lead to basically a shorter route tree, which plays perfectly for Christian McCaffrey. So his involvement in the passing game should be really huge, but he's now really expensive. You get a huge discount on Kamara versus McCaffrey, and I think Kamara is probably my favorite play on DraftKings. I know people are less high on him. Could be an Ingram game, but give me Kamara. I think the Saints bounce back in a big way here. The total is coming down, which is a little concerning, but that lowers my opinion on kind of like Michael Thomas and Breeze more so than Kamara. I really like him this week. And Zeke, I mean, he's going to get a ton of opportunity. I do think you want to attack the Eagles through the air, but we've seen Zeke get more involved in the passing game. So I have no problem with any of those three guys.
Yeah, no, I like that. And let's use this to segue into one of the classic seminal segments on this show. Favorite sneaky shootout game. You mentioned Saints Bucks. Despite that total coming down, I believe that is the chalk shootout game based on Vegas point total projections. Do you have an under the radar sneaky shootout game? Maybe a game that's, say, under a 50-point total that you think could crush that?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple games that have potential to shoot out this week. I think that, you know, the one game that I really liked before, I referenced it already, was this Green Bay Atlanta game. I think that it has a ton of sneaky shootout potential, but the total's screaming up, so it's less sneaky now. The Broncos 49ers game was another game I was definitely looking at. You know, the 49ers have been abysmal against the pass. Really, anyone outside of Richard Sherman struggled to cover receivers. So I was looking at that game, and then my boy, Manny Sanders, who actually my wife just left mad. I think she didn't realize I was recording something. But she you know, she was about to leave me for Manny Sanders, but now he's you know, he can't move. So that's good news for me.
Yeah, that's right, dude. Yeah, Schefter broke that news that she left you for Emmanuel Sanders, but then Emmanuel Sanders, you know, ruptured the Achilles or what have you, and then Rappaport's reported that she's coming back to you, that you're further along in the rehab, and she's back on the Pete train. So congrats, Pete.
Yeah, I wish Schefter would have broken that, but it's okay.
It's okay.
Back in business, you know.
Oh, I actually have to ask you a question talking about these big-time reporters. Your new colleague, Darren Rovell, did you see him get dunked on by the Tennessee Titans Twitter account last night?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh, you did? He had a classic Rovellian tweet where he said, "Hey, everybody, don't call this one of the greatest runs ever," after Derrick Henry, like, stiff-armed three guys, like, toward the core of the earth. Shut up, nerd. Yeah, there it is. So, you know, Darren Rovell's first day of school at the Action Network got stuffed in the locker by the Titans social media account.
Oh, almost 50,000 likes, too. Wow. Absolutely dunked on.
Oh God. So good. So good. Yeah, no, that Broncos 49ers game is interesting. This is kind of fast forwarding to one of my other segments, but just let's do it now. Stone Min, punt play. Denver Broncos new starting slot wide receiver taken in the 4th round by the Denver Broncos, Deshaun Hamilton's. What are your thoughts, Pete?
Oh, he is a great pivot. So I talked about it. I think the classic roster construction this week is going to be pay down at running back for the guys we talked about at the beginning of the show, and then fit in a couple of these receivers. Keenan Allen, I think, is going to be uber chalk. DeAndre Hopkins is starting to get a lot of momentum. Michael Thomas will still garner ownership. You have Antonio Brown, you have Odell Beckham, Juju, Tyreek on a big price reduction, Julio. I mean, you have all these stud receivers that people want to play, and no one's going to be dipping down into this value range. I mean, maybe Cortland Sutton will be somewhat heavily owned, but Hamilton, to me, is a really talented player. And the reason the Broncos traded away Demaryius Thomas is, one, they didn't want to pay him this offseason, but for this season, they wanted to get more opportunity for Sutton, number one, but also to get Hamilton onto the field. And Hamilton really impressed all preseason. He was great. Everything I hear, he's great in practice. And I think given the opportunity, he could have some really big games, and he should see less Richard Sherman than Cortland Sutton. So Hamilton at 3K, I think, makes a ton of sense. And I think in tournaments, when you can have a roster construction of paying up for these stud running backs and then paying down a receiver is going to make your team unique and leveraged. And I like him. You got the Broncos jersey on though, dude. What's your call?
Yeah, dude. No, I've been given a hard look because I think, CSURAM88 is given the Sutton ownership boom across the industry. So I'm looking to make that pivot to Hamilton. I was looking at his snap share the past 3 weeks coming out of the bye. It was 14%, 29%, then 47% last week. Now, the rub is he's only had 4 targets over that span as well. But on the flip side, Emmanuel Sanders was playing all those games and playing his same position in the slot. So I like, the same logic there. If Sutton's going to see a little bit of Sherman, the targets have to go somewhere. They can't give Lindsey the ball 35 times. It does seem like Hamilton could be that possession receiver. I guess the worst case scenario is him and Lacoste each only get like 3 or 4 targets each and cannibalize each other over the middle.
Yeah, Lacoste, man. He was expensive last week. The same joke, everyone. He's Lacoste. You a lot of money if you played him. Lacoste is definitely another bounce back guy. There's a lot of options at tight end. You have a preference on Lacoste versus like Ian Thomas?
Yeah, I would definitely go Lacoste. Ian Thomas kind of underwhelmed earlier this season when Greg Olsen's was out. And I'm honestly a little worried about Cam too, and the arm and just how prolific this offense can be. And so, yeah, I think I'd definitely hew Lacoste there. And I would trust that, we can pretty safely say Lacoste is probably the 3rd target on the Broncos, where Ian Thomas is still going to be 5th, 6th down the totem pole with all the Jarius Wright, Torrey Smith bullshit that Carolina does.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. It's a weird situation. The shoulder injury for Cam is just really, really, really troublesome to me. The 49ers, man, I mean, they've been good against the run. And I think a lot of people want to play Philip Lindsay, who I think is another strong play. He's been incredible. We saw the big one last week. So pivoting away from him in that game, I think, makes sense. The other guy on the 49ers that I love, that's another great GPP pivot, is Marquise Goodwin. The Broncos have the reputation of still being a really great defense. And losing Chris Harris is more impactful to that team than losing Emmanuel Sanders. Chris Harris is one of the top 2 or 3 corners in the league. He covers slot guys. And without him on the field, because what they were doing is basically putting Harris mostly on like their best receiver, but he did still prefer to play in the slot, and then using double teams on other guys. Now that they don't have Chris Harris, like, it's just going to be a disaster. So I think that Marquise Goodwin could have a nice game. George Kittle could have a nice game. So there's some good pivots in that game. And I guess that would be my sneaky shootout, especially with the Broncos gear you got on, bud.
There it is. There it is. This is kind of shocking. I can tell the chat doesn't know what to do with themselves, but Pete likes the Broncos in DFS this week. I mean, it's shocking. It's shocking.
I like the 49ers, though. I think they're sneaky. The Broncos, everyone knows.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. You've been pushing up all their ownership. I mean, Matt Lacoste is a household name because of Pete Jennings, CSURAM88. I mean, you did that.
Dude, trust me, it's been bad. Amari Cooper, I've lost a lot of people money on Amari Cooper and the Broncos, but yeah, if you go back, dude, the glory days when I built up the bankroll, this is all true. Like one of the biggest years I had was when Peyton Manning threw all those touchdowns, and I was on the Bronco homerism and some good. It's not like it's just been a straight, trending graph down. The Broncos have been mostly this, and then recently a little bit of that. But Cortland Sutton was big last week in the best balls, which I know you know about.
Oh, yeah. So I think that what you're saying is we need to make the Broncos great again so we can make CSURAM88great at DFS again, so you can just tail them.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk here. We mentioned Deshaun Hamilton. We've mentioned all of these punt play running backs like Jeffrey Wilson's and Jalen Samuels. And we also mentioned that it might be unique to pay up at running back and pay down at wide receiver. So other than Hamilton, who are these, say, like sub 4.5K wide receivers that you're interested in punting with to get up to Zeke, McCaffrey, and Kamara?
Yeah, Curtis Samuel would be one. Obviously, there's negative correlation with him and Christian McCaffrey. We'll see. Funchess was limited last week. We'll see what they end up doing there. But he's another guy that I think has such big yard after catch potential. And with the way Camden is feeling, they should try to get him on the field. I mentioned Marquise Goodwin. He's a guy I definitely love. If you're going to stack up some of these Raiders, let's say you pivoted away from Jalen Samuels, or you use like Samuels and Antonio Brown on the same team. Aikman from Oakland is someone who impressed me last week. Only 4 targets, but did catch a touchdown. And one of his other targets was a long touchdown where he got 1 foot in bounds and the second foot was just out. He's a big player. He's really cheap. And if you need someone to run it back, because basically if you're taking like a Big Ben, Antonio Brown, Samuel stack, you need the Raiders to put up some points. That's why Kansas City had a good week last week, was the Raiders actually kept that game somewhat competitive. He's someone that I think makes sense. It starts to get pretty thin after that. I mean, you could look to like these Cleveland receivers, Higgins and Callaway. I think they're a little bit interesting. That game could definitely be a sneaky shootout as well. That's kind of it for me. I mean, my favorite one for sure are the Broncos, Patrick and Hamilton, but that's not any analysis that anyone needs to hear from me. So
Seth Roberts was interesting to me. I know Silva, I read his matchup column earlier. Dude, that's a brag, dude. I read. And he likes Seth Roberts' matchup in the slot over Marcel Aitman's. Both those Raiders wide receivers have been popping in the defense doesn't matter model over on 4for4.com. So that's kind of intriguing there. I saw Levitan's in his kind of target report. He was talking about Michael Gallup, which is a little interesting, Pete. If you want to leverage your own bias there and fade Amari, Michael Gallup could be in a good spot. He's fairly cheap as well. So, yeah, those are some guys I think are also in the conversation and will be very contrarian just because people are going to want to get the higher price wide receivers with these cheap running backs.
Yeah, I should have referenced Gallup. He's on one of my lists. I think he's a good play. He's definitely getting more and more involved. Monitoring the Beasley situation, sounds like he's going to play too. I don't think that impacts too much. But, yeah, I mean, the Eagles should probably try to take away Amari Cooper, which will open it up for Gallup, who's a really talented guy. Also a CSU guy. So, I mean, more bias for me to load up on Gallup there.
Yeah, dude, you're mentioning all the Broncos. You snuck in. Did you mention Rashard Higgins too? I think you did, right? Yeah. See, look at that. It all comes back to CSU. It all comes back to Denver, your circle of influence and vortex. You can't escape it.
Yeah, it's my brand, bro. Just like, someone else I know has a little bit of a shtick.
Well, a shtick, dude. If my shtick is just crushing so hard, then I guess. Okay, so, actually one more on these punt wide receivers we haven't mentioned, and I liked the dichotomy that you guys have set up on the DFS Edge. We have 4-condom Humphreys versus Raw Dog Godwin. Where do you fall on those lines?
Oh, dude, Godwin. I mean, Levitan said it best. If you like having sex with 4 condoms on, you can fucking play Humphreys. But if you're a man and you want to just raw dog it in there, which feels a lot better. I mean, man, that's something you do on the reg. I'm all about Godwin. He's a super talented player. Had Jameis Godwin in cash last week, and looking like it's going to be the same again on FanDuel. I really think I'll have a lot of Godwin. He's a talented player. And the nice thing here against the Saints, too, I mean, you have Lattimore, who should see Mike Evans most of the game, which sets up extremely well for Godwin. Obviously, Humphreys in the slot probably has the best matchup. But, yeah, I'm not a guy who likes to wear 4 condoms. So.
Yeah, no, like you mentioned, Lattimore on Evans, and then the Saints have actually been really good against tight ends too. So you maybe tick down Braid a little bit. Last week, it was viable to play Winston with both Godwin and Humphreys. So maybe, dude, maybe what you do is you start off with 4 condoms, and, you know, that allows you to go the distance for like an hour or two, and then you take them off, and then you raw dog it for the finish. What I'm trying to say is maybe you play both of them.
Yeah, that's a good play, dude. I mean, I like it. Shout out to Bales. He played Winston, Evans, Godwin, and Humphreys all on his King of the Beach lineup, which I thought was really sharp, capturing that kind of field. Yeah, so I'm with you. I think Humphreys is still a really good play. I had some in tournaments last week, but I did not have the double stack. Most of my double stacks with Winston included either Godwin and Braid, Godwin and Evans, or Humphreys and Braid. So I didn't have those 2 paired, and that was a mistake.
Dude, what an alpha play by Bales, dude. We're here talking about condom analogies with which one of these guys are playing. He's going full orgy, just all the bucks. That's a Bales play right there.
Oh, dude. I mean, Bales is the ultimate alpha. I mean, the guy can bench press 500 pounds. The guy can do 70 pull-ups in a row. I mean, yeah, we're like pawns, and he's a fucking king, you know?
It's true. It's true, dude. I know. And you guys, I was listening to 3
jacked off like 50 times in 12 hours. I mean, you saw
it. I don't like necessarily how that string of words came out. He jacked off 50 times in an hour. You saw it. You know, I don't know if that's.
This is right up your alley, bud. This is your brand.
Yeah, you know what? You know, Friedman's needed the hazmat suit, but I was just in there kind of like on an ottoman. You're just laying back and just watching Bales do work. Dude. It was very
abs, you know, you were ready. Playing some Connect 4.
That's right, dude. That's right, man. Speaking of which, dude, first of all, what's the deal with these with this gambling Olympics, dude? I know there was a highlight reel that was out there that hasn't surfaced. That, I mean, all this, it's been very quiet on the gambling Olympics front.
Yeah, imagine the greatest content ever created not getting any exposure. Manz not getting any exposure. I mean, the world is it's just not right.
It's not right. It's not right. I know they're trying to suppress it. You know, they're trying to keep me down, but they can't. Okay, dude.
You know, Friedman just showed up in the chat. Friedman actually did. Friedman, whew, the hazmat, brutal.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for hashtagging that. You guys can all track all of Friedman's hazmat adventures with the hashtag hazmat suit. Be sure to check that out. That's where Friedman puts that on every time he goes to bash Antonio Brown's. What a clickbait punk that Friedman is, huh, Jennings?
Dude, imagine hating on Antonio Brown before he has a prime time game at home in a high total environment. It's not going to end well for you.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure it's going to, you know, end well for him this week too. You know, their running backs out. They're going against the Raiders. I'm sure Antonio Brown will have a really quiet, you know, 4 for 40 line.
Yeah, that's what
okay, it is now time for a segment I am very excited about. This is a staple on the show, and some might say that in the aggregate, the 69 Challenge has gone a lot like the Broathlon, where Manz creates this genius invention and then can't capitalize. But longtime viewers of this program will remember a very special 69 Challenge from last year versus CSURAM88, where the Manz took down Pete Jennings in the 69 Challenge, and now we are about to run it back. Should you accept Pete Jennings? What are your feelings?
Actually pay promptly. And I need to shout out. I need to make sure I get that done. That's something that I didn't pay quickly, man. That's not right.
No, that was so funny, dude. Because I had too much pride to message you to pay off the 69 Challenge. But I was at the King of the Hill poker stuff last year, and I was hanging out with Sean Deebs, and somehow we got talking, and I was telling him this story, and he's like, I'm gonna message Pete right now and tell him he needs to pay up on this bet. And so Sean Deebs, shout out Sean, you know, instigated you paying off the 69 bet.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it, to be honest. Like I just totally botched it. And I also need to do something for old Humps in the chat. So paying those two things off before the year, and I will pay quickly on the 69 challenge if I lose.
If you lose, yeah, I am. I have won this year against Davis Maddox earlier this season. I have come close. I guess the question everyone wants to know is, will you be throwing your leagues lineup in the 69 challenge?
I mean, it's a guaranteed win if I do. My leagues line has been struggling hard this year.
Yeah,
DraftKings, the P&L is inverse of the FanDuel P&L. So can we move over to FanDuel by chance?
No, because well, actually, maybe they changed now because the whole point. Do they have 9 slots now? Is it the same amount of slots as DraftKings? Yeah, that was a sticking point.
They don't have a kicker.
Okay, all right. Yeah, we could do a little FanDuel. FanDuel. I don't play a ton over there, but sometimes on Sundays after I've done all my DraftKings research, I'll go over there to build a lineup, and it feels like, if you did a weighted pull-up and you have the 45-pound weight hanging off you, and you take that off and then you get the rubber band and start doing pull-ups. That's what it feels like to build lineups over on FanDuel.
That's why I can win over there, and that's why I lose on DraftKings. I can't even do a pull-up with a 45-pound weight, man. So that's a good analogy, and it fits perfectly for me.
But yeah, you know what? I hear you getting ready to battle here with Bales in another challenge, and it sounds like you're down to go back to the pull-ups well.
Yeah, I'd go back to the pull-ups well. I mean, hopefully I can get a spot. I mean, we all know Bales just quit after he got the win. We know he's got a lot more in the tank. I mean, he can do at least 50 pull-ups if he's pushed. So that's going to be factored into the line. And yeah, I think pull-ups, I mean, I know we want to talk some football, but pull-ups is probably one of the most objective lifts that you can train for a challenge. So I don't really want to do bench press or anything like that. Again, I want to do body weight stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I know Bales isn't watching this, so I feel okay between you, me, and all the listeners. No, I might be in the pull-ups lab ready to challenge Bales in some capacity, but I've learned from hanging out with you guys I need to be way better at sandbagging, so this stays between us, okay?
Okay. It's not like it's on the internet anywhere.
But dude, Bales is living that Boca Glow life, dude. He ain't watching this.
That's true. He's also getting more guests on this podcast.
Yeah, dude. How's his podcast going? I keep waiting for an invite. Maybe I should do an audition for the Bales podcast.
I would, if you're trying to get on his podcast, your audition should be shirtless.
Okay, yeah. Shirtless, and maybe I should start posting more like science black hole videos on Twitter just to kind of really get on his wavelength.
Yeah, that or like really high level finance videos or finance stuff would be right up the alley.
Dude, I opened up that link thinking it was going to be kind of digestible, and it's like a 40-page like PDF investor summary. I was like, Bales, I can't do this.
I read the whole thing. It's actually really good. So, man, step up your game, bud. I know you talked about reading before, so let's put that to work, okay?
Do you want to know a cut line from my audition video, Pete?
Let's hear it.
I had you giving a plug for an Invest Like the Best podcast, but it didn't make the final cut.
Dude, how did that make the cut, dude? And how long did that take you, by the way? Because the attention to detail was so strong in that. How long did that take you?
I don't know. So over like the past like 4 to 5 weeks, I'd known for a while I wanted to do a follow-up to the Swolecast one. And once you guys started doing more video and getting them on YouTube and stuff, there were more like signposts. So I just started jotting down ideas of things needed to hit. But once I had all the set stuff, I'm lucky because I have the Levitan's-esque blue couch behind me. And your background's pretty simple. I have a green screen. So it all came together fairly easily once I storyboarded it. But that's why it's a great podcast. You gave me a lot of fodder to work with.
There's some material. We do a lot of dumb things on that podcast, but yeah, that video trumps anything that we've ever accomplished on the podcast.
Well, Pete Jennings, I very much appreciate you coming on the program. You're a busy man. You're out in those streets. You're out there. So, I mean, I don't need to plug everything for you. CSURAM88, DFS Edge Podcast, the Action Networks, the Three Donkeys. I know our boy Holka's in the chat here. He's been streaming on Twitch. You've been hopping on with him on Sunday mornings. Anything I'm missing?
No, that's it, dude. Shout out to Joe. He's killing it on Twitch. Shout out to the Manz. This has been a lot of fun. And I'm in on the 69 challenge. Whatever you want to do, dude. I'm in. And What's going to be the punishment for the loser?
Well, I don't know if, again, how much you've been tracking, but I'm on a rough set of punishments.
I saw your video where you were peeing. That was interesting.
Yeah.
You said you wanted someone to pee on themselves. I can't remember who that was, too.
No. I made a bet where I had to pour some liquid with a little bit of my own urine on it. I lost that bet. Last week, I lost the 69 challenge to TJ Hernandez, and now I need to pour an IPA on my head when we meet up in January. So I need to get what my see the 69 challenge. Look, is the man's confident? Is the man's, think he's the best head-to-head player in the entire universe? Sure. Am I playing with 3 players down and I probably need to get odds on the type of bets I'm giving? Yes. So, generally it's just a shout out kind of tweet, but I feel like I've already gotten enough shout outs for a lifetime from the CSU Rammies. So yeah, maybe we need to go in the lab and think of better stakes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll definitely shout you out or do whatever, but yeah, let's come up with something fun, dude.
Okay.
We need to get the crew together. We need to get the gambling Olympics crew together.
We do, dude. We do. We'll get all the prep going. Once the football season ends, we'll start looking ahead to Broathlon, the Squeakquel numero trace. So, all right, I'm going to let you go. Everybody, if you guys haven't signed up yet, the Manz GP Pete, some would say the greatest tournament on DraftKings, 50 Manz, top 10 pay, super flat payout structure. Pete, dude, we made it bigger, dude. The people asked, and we made it from 40 to 50 people. So, I mean, your guys are going to have to take a back seat. It's the best tournament on DraftKings.
You might have something there. I'm entering it literally right now, so it's already at 39 out of 50. You need to make it bigger. Maybe that's something I can help with.
That's what you could have.
A new hashtag, make it bigger. Get paid, get laid.
There it is. And I know Levitan's already in there. Now we got CSU Rammies. You guys want to come see what Pete's leagues lineup is, you got to enter that tournament. All right.
Scroll down to the bottom, just look at last place, and you'll see my leagues lineup. That's where it'll be. Amari Cooper on the team.
Amari Pooper, dude. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. The chat was lit today, and we will see you guys all next week. Good luck in week 14. For CSU Rammies 88, I'm the Manz. Get paid, get laid.